Hey, everybody. Good morning. Happy Friday. Bella, can you say hi? She hates to be held, but, we have to show everybody how big she's getting and stuff. I know. Okay. There you go. She's like 15 pounds now, you guys. Isn't that incredible?
She's adorable.
Fast.
And she's
Super
still
fast.
a toe biter.
Yeah, she's probably like 16 pounds today because it was a couple days ago. Where'd she go?
Oh my gosh, she's under the table.
Yeah.
We all know what that means. My toes.
Martha May's going to freak out here. Our producer is going to grab her and get her going. Then we'll get into the news. But hey, today we're going to talk about a lot of different things. Let's see. We've got Afghan troops being withdrawn. About 25% of them so far, it looks like. We're going to talk about a Rochester law enforcement agency that they surprise a fellow officer after a heart transplant. We're going to talk about how the governor of Minnesota, Walz, announces incentives to encourage COVID-19 vaccinations. We're going to talk about Hadstown jumps ahead of pack to welcome Broadway patrons. We're going to talk about more than 400 U.S. theme parks set to reopen this year. And Biden looks abroad for electric vehicle metals in a blow to U.S. miners. We're going to talk about that. And then the Department of Justice charges 14 people in alleged COVID-related healthcare fraud issues. So it's all coming up on today's show. And I've got like really severe allergies, so my throat and lungs and stuff are just on fire. So bear with me. I appreciate it, everybody. Big plans for the weekend. I've got hanging out with me to my left. That's you. That's you.
That's me.
You're on my left.
Yeah, today.
Yeah.
Craig Uglin, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And I would just like to say, keep your thoughts and prayers out for the family of Conservation Officer Sarah Grell, who is being put to rest today. She passed away earlier this week in the line of duty. So think of her family as she's being laid to rest.
Amen.
And to my right.
And I am Martha Makashadi, and I am on Facebook. And yes, it is Memorial Day weekend, and along with the conservation officer, all of our fallen officers and military as we remember Memorial Day.
I'm going to talk about, excuse me, thanks for bearing with me again, you guys, but Memorial Day, I'm going to do a segment on General Blackjack John Logan. He's a relative of mine, and he actually was a crucial part of Memorial Day and getting all that started. So
wow, how'd
it's very
you find
cool
that?
History. Oh, we've known it for years.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about it on Monday, segment on Monday evening. So
Awesome.
Pretty fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Some like great uncle or something of mine. I don't know. I don't remember the exact details, but I'm trying to get my dad to give me permission to show a picture of him next to John Logan, the mustache, Craig, that you love so much. Yeah. It's like, it's uncanny how much they look alike. Huh. So it's pretty wild. Yeah.
Wow.
So there's no question about it. Like,
wow.
Just look at the picture and you can tell that related to General Logan. So
he doesn't have great hair, but a mustache is the gene.
Well, he has great hair, but not great hair like me. I mean, who can have great hair like I do?
We should pencil that mustache in on you and see if it follows down.
You need a big brush. It's pretty.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty impressive mustache, Dad. So, yeah. But
That's awesome,
General
man.
Logan has he and his horse in DC. I've seen they've got a statue and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, that he's just a very crucial part of Memorial Day and stuff. And yeah, so I'll talk about that on Monday. But right now, let's dig into the DOJ, and they charge 14 people in alleged COVID-related healthcare fraud. So a lot of things to cover in this article, but we'll just take a few minutes, read a little bit about it, and then we'll discuss it. Federal prosecutors have charged 14 people, including a medical doctor and owners of laboratories, pharmacies, and home health agencies in multiple COVID-related fraud schemes that allegedly bilked consumers and insurers out of $143 million. The Department of Justice announced on Wednesday. In addition to the Center for Program Integrity at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services announced it took administrative action against more than 50 medical providers for their involvement in healthcare fraud schemes relating to COVID-19. Talks about some real specifics in this article. It's pretty wild. I mean, I don't know, $88 million to one of them. There was $5.5 million to one of them. Where'd the article go? I got to get ads in there too, I suppose, right? But doctor in New Jersey totaling about 19 million. What do you guys think?
I'm not surprised. I mean, I hate to be the cynic, but the way that they were throwing money out at COVID, I would imagine this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
From top to bottom. So
there'll be more. They'll find more. Hopefully they find more.
Yeah.
But how, you know, it's too bad. How could people resist? I mean, was hanging the carrot in front of everybody, like, look at all this COVID money you get. Look at all this COVID money. And they said after for a couple of years, medical
whose money is that's the one thing I want to say. People like yourself, COVID money. What money is that actually?
That kickback.
It's taxpayer money.
Oh, taxpayer money, obviously. Yeah,
it's
our money.
Kids and our great grandkids.
Yeah,
our money.
For it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So sorry, go ahead.
No, so we're paying for it.
So the COVID money is actually our money, and like Craig said, grandparents and or grandkids and kids' money. It's crazy.
Right. So they kind of
it's easy to. I guess my point, Martha May, is it's easy to put that into a little box and say it's COVID money, but it's actually a lot of people don't understand that where that money comes from.
Right. No, that's a good
taxpayer
perspective
money.
on it, because people just assume because it comes out of the budget or our government that it's just pulled out of thin air. And we talked about that last week. Like China was making it and we owe everything to China. And now we're making more money. And people don't understand, the deficit and different things like that, like how that keeps just rolling, extra zeros adding on to it when they're doing bailout after bailout and handout after handout like that. So, when you dangle that carrot in front of people and then give them the opportunity to take advantage of something that's almost too good to be true to pay off, like Craig said, you can't really. And I am not approving it by any means. Not approving it by any means. But I'm sure it's just the tip of the iceberg with that. So I'm glad they found something.
Well, and it's frustrating because, I mean, it happens at all levels. I mean, I saw some of the recipients of the PPP locally, and I'm like, how is your business affected by COVID? You're busier than you've probably ever been, yet you're getting this PPP money. Yet there were restaurant owners that filed, or business owners, and they didn't receive anything, and they had been closed for a year.
Right.
So where's the oversight? Some of the local folks that are, we'll call them watchdogs, the art money that was spent locally, who determined who got that art money? Is it doing favors for your supporters? There's just no oversight to it. And I don't know how you audit billions and trillions of dollars, but it's not just at the federal level or the state level. This is local too.
They're talking about movie theaters still have not received funds yet. I say money. They still have not received any assistance yet, movie theaters. And then we've got medical professionals. And like they said in the article, these are our heroes. These are our heroes during COVID last year that we considered heroes taking advantage of the system now.
Yeah, exactly. I think that a lot of them probably were heroes, but you also can't just throw that into the same container and say that everybody was. I wonder how far they'll push this. This is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And how are they going to get it back? Are they going to get to a point and say, we're going to take away your license or do something like that and then have fun? I don't know. Are they going to throw them in jail? That's the thing for me. Like, how are you going to get $88 million back? And let's look at it let's look at it a very positive way. Let's say that, out of that 88 million to this one particular case, what was the legitimate money? Was it 40 million that was legitimately used to save people and 48 million wasn't?
Right.
I don't know. How do you weigh that?
In the article, it says in New York, two just two. This is looking at two people who own several pharmacies and sham pharmacies, wholesaling companies for allegedly committing healthcare fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering, totaling $45 million. Two people,
Yeah.
$45 million.
That's why I say it's just the tip of the iceberg. And,
Wow.
and then you get, and I can't recall the article, but Mayo, I believe, had turned money back because they said we don't need the money, big bad Mayo. So there are a lot of very good ethical organizations out there, but
yeah, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's just too tempting. There was too much money out there for you to know that people weren't going to try and take advantage of the situation.
And maybe for people listening, don't realize, there was a whole, I hate to use the word incentive, but people don't understand that if a hospital or care facility had a COVID patient on a respiratory, they got X amount of dollars, like almost 5 times more if it was COVID, if it was checked as COVID. And a lot of people don't realize that. They didn't see that in the fine print, or they didn't see that when that came out on the news or press releases and everything. So a lot of people don't understand that there was an incentive for care facilities, medical facilities, to have COVID-related diagnosis, equipment, different things like that.
Well, and Matt, your conversations with Dr. Jensen and how they were, somebody died in a car accident, but they called it a COVID-related death because
I actually know the people that happened to.
And why was that done? Is it because the hospital got a kickback for it? I would assume so, but again, it's an assumption. How much of that's happened? That overinflated numbers.
Here's the scary thing for me, though. People were saying that, oh no, that's not happening. I mean, we all heard it. We all saw it. That's one of the reasons to start this show is like, let's look at this and try to be as transparent as we can, figure out what does this mean, dissect it from like working class people. People were screaming, oh no, this is a COVID death. This is a COVID death. They're not doing anything fraudulent. And now this stuff is coming out. And I'm frankly surprised that this article is from, CNBC. It's let's just be honest. They usually aren't going to be talking about things like this because that's anyway. Well, that's a little
that's like
bit of
real
a sidebar,
news.
That's another conversation.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like that's what's scary is that so many people said no, this isn't happening. And I personally literally knew 2 families that lost people in absolutely non-COVID related ways, and it was a COVID stamp. And I don't know that many people. That's a pretty high percentage is what I'm saying.
A lot of people know you, but
yeah, I don't know a lot of people.
Well, just pull your head out of the sand. Like you don't want to be pessimistic about everything, but use some common sense and open your eyes up and don't just believe everything that you're told. And you preach that on this show. Do your own research.
Yes.
And your research isn't CNN and Fox News and MSNBC. It's read all of them. Read the other news agencies not in our country.
And that's interesting that you say that too, because a lot of those news organizations, including Fox, their numbers have dropped off like the face of the earth. Don Lemon, 77% drop.
Wow.
Yeah, that was just reported a few days ago.
Because they can't scream about Trump anymore.
Exactly.
They don't have anything to make money on.
They hung their business plan on Trump and hating Trump.
Maybe they should have had him pushed for him to be president.
Right.
So they'd have 4 more years of work.
Yeah.
But anyway,
job security.
Right.
So that's this is our economy section, U.S. economy, and the reason this is in there to me is like this is our money that was completely used inappropriately, and from a perspective of that, I really hope to see that some of these things are brought to prosecution, so that it doesn't happen again in the future, or at least there's a lot less likely chance of that happening in the future, I guess.
But you brought up good questions, Matt. Like, what is going to be their punishment or prosecution for this? How are they going to follow through with this? How are we going to get reimbursed, as taxpayers? All those questions, what we are owed. Anybody else does a crime, they have to do the time.
And putting them in prison, okay, or you pull their license, whatever, but you pull their bank accounts, you pull everything that they have.
Right.
Because if they lose their license, but they have $40 million in the bank,
yeah, who cares?
Who gives a crap?
Yeah.
Go find an island.
Right. They probably already bought one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Non-extradition treaty.
Where COVID doesn't exist.
Right.
Or does.
Also, in the U.S. economy that we're going to talk about, Biden looks abroad for electric vehicle metals in blow to U.S. miners.
Wow.
Yeah, I love the Ely, Minnesota area. And, you know, I know there's a lot of people unhappy up there about some of the decisions being made.
Currently being made. Yes.
U.S. President Joe Biden will rely on ally countries to supply the bulk of the metals needed to build electric vehicles and focus on processing them domestically into battery parts. Part of the strategy designed to placate environmentalists, two administration officials with direct knowledge told Reuters. You know, this is a pretty long, in-depth article, but it talks about how it talks in environmental issues. It talks about how there's the one thing I wanted to bring up, though, really important in this article and show, the U.S. government in April became the largest shareholder in mining investment firm TechMet, which controls a Brazilian nickel project, a Rwandan tungsten mine, and is a major investor in a Canadian battery recycler. So in April, that would mean the Biden administration is who this came from. So there's a lot of really interesting and deep things in this article. Chinese processors, you know, all these different things that are here. What do you think?
There are so many facets to this article and what's going on. And the first one is, okay, let's not destroy our land because the environmentalists want to protect it, but let's go trash other countries. Let's go trash Brazil where the Amazon forest is. And it's a huge red flag of, yeah, we're saving the environment, but we're destroying the environment to save it. The mining processes to get the special metals for these batteries isn't gentle. It's not just a well and a wellhead with some pipelines coming out of it. It's open pit mines that are ginormous. How is that environmentally friendly? And then you have the issue of the batteries are good for 10 or 20 years. And then what? Until they can figure out how to refine and reuse these batteries and these special metals.
Then they got to dispose of them.
You know, and do your research.
And who can do that better? China or us?
And cleaner.
That's what that's what I mean, I guess, is like overall the whole picture.
Right.
Who can do it better? Like all the regulations that we have and all the things that are already in place without even doing anything new
don't exist in China and Brazil.
I've been
India.
to China. They don't exist.
That's why everything is done so cheap over
These
there. These
Rwanda mines in I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to throw this in there because I just had that thought. So you guys know I did a wedding in January in Florida.
Yeah.
Officiated a wedding. And my son was with me. He's 21, but so our plane was delayed. So we were sitting there and trying to find something to eat and stuff and in the amount of time that we had. And so we're sitting there, food ordered, and a guy's sitting next to us. And the short version is that he has experience with a company that does security for one of the Rwandan mines. It's not what he does anymore, but I don't know why we were talking about weird stuff like this, but that's just how I am.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about this stuff, and he starts pulling up videos on his phone of security cameras and stuff, what happens. And it's, look, I am 100% going to say this on the record. I am totally against this investment in a Rwandan mine off of those videos. They are horrible to the people.
They don't have the labor laws.
No.
To protect the workers, and there's probably borderline slave labor.
He showed me a landslide in one of those open pit mines where people died. He had a video of the security, and he showed it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, they don't have the regulations and the parameters
and the
that we
safety
do.
for the workers
And safety,
or
yeah.
the environment.
So these environmentalists, really?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the article, it says it's not that hard to dig a hole. What's hard is getting that stuff out and getting it into processing facilities. That's what the U.S. government is focused on, said one of the sources.
And that's such a ridiculous comment.
Wow.
And then, so the environmental part of it, and then how about the U.S. worker part of it? Our previous administration pushed and pushed and pushed to keep jobs in America, and Biden is trying to outsource everything and just give us the cush jobs.
Made in the USA.
Made in the USA. And I want to go. I'm jumping all over the place, but so you talked about the mines up in Ely in that area, and I struggle with that because we've been to the Boundary Waters, and I hold that area dear to my heart, and it's a huge battle because of where some of these mines are in the watershed of the Boundary Waters, and if there is one leak, one spill out of those mines, the Boundary Waters would be destroyed. So,
what kind of mine are you talking about that would do that?
I don't know if there's I don't recall if it was like a copper nickel mine or whatever, but it was within, I would say, a few miles of the edge of the Boundary Waters, and of course all of that's interconnected. And so I can see the purpose of the regulations, but that's the struggle is this pristine environment of the Boundary Waters, yet the need for the special metals to make these earth-friendly cars,
right,
or environmentally friendly cars. So the risk and reward, what's the balance of that? Plus the jobs up there. I don't know, but is it okay to just destroy another part of the world to preserve our part of the world?
It was just 2
but
years
it destroys
ago.
it worse.
It was just 2 years ago that the President Trump made he did deregulation on like heavy metal cars, different things like that. All the parameters that a couple administrations before had put into place, he did a lot of deregulation so that we could have made in the USA vehicles, not as heavy, great gas mileage. And now all that's changed 2 years later, where they're looking at all this electric vehicles and stuff from other countries instead of made in the USA.
And one of the things that a lot of people don't consider, and I had a conversation with somebody about it recently, a person that had a hybrid car or whatever, is part electric, part gas, and their electric bill is like through the roof.
Oh yeah,
they're plugging their car in every night or whatever, and I don't know how they work, honestly. So I don't know. I can't like say how much. I have no idea how much electricity they take. I have no idea on all these things. But he's like, I plug my car in every night, and the electric bill has tripled.
I can only imagine.
Right. And so then where does the electricity come from?
Right.
Oh,
it comes
right.
from natural gas. Well, they're pushing natural gas.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't do electric
cars.
cars. That's not my point. But my point is most people don't follow the chain.
Right. What's at the other end of the plug?
Yes.
And I've got a friend that
Let me ask you this. Sorry, I'm gonna even go even further. What's a fossil fuel? Do you know what that is?
Came out of the ground.
Fossil.
Decomposed dinosaurs.
Everybody says dinosaurs. What were dinosaurs? I'm going to challenge you here. Animals. What are animals made out of?
Carbon.
What do you think happens when we die? We turn into oil.
Mm-hmm. Or diamonds if it's long enough.
Right. I'm a diamond. I'm a diamond in the rough. I'm gonna shine.
But my point is that fossil fuels, in a sense, are continually being. Animals are dying all the time. We're dying all the time, and I'm not trying to be morbid about it, but I'm trying to be real about it.
Right.
Like, will we run out of fossil fuels? Well, we should be careful for sure, but it's being replenished,
right?
And that's the reality of it.
And
that came from a scientist that I talked to, and actually I read his article too.
What do plants need to survive? Carbon dioxide.
Mm-hmm. So,
haven't you guys ever driven by Walmart or Hy-Vee and seen all those electric plugging stations and then thought, who's even using those? Is it really the people shopping at Walmart and Hy-Vee that's really buying a 5 times as much electric car? No, they're not shopping there.
Well, and I was going to say this. I've got a friend that she works at Hy-Vee. She's
We're getting off. I'm sorry. That's my fault. We're getting way off here. That's my fault.
She goes to work every day and she gets to plug her car in at Hy-Vee for free. So she doesn't have to plug her car in at home. And she only has to plug it in every third day.
Wow.
But in her situation, she doesn't have to pay for her electricity because it's little wind turbines or whatever are at those charging stations. But what powers those at night when the sun's down or when it's not windy outside?
Yeah, we're in Minnesota.
It comes off the grid.
Right.
Well, what powers the grid?
Right.
And it's, Rochester and RPU has made this pledge to get carbon free, yet they have backup power surge stations that run off of natural gas. And why is natural gas so cheap? Because of the fracking in North Dakota. But what do they want to shut down? The fracking in North Dakota. So they're going to put in all these systems to run off of natural gas. But when they stop the fracking, the natural gas is going to go through the roof. So our power bills are just going to go up and up and up and up and up.
Yeah, anyway,
we have a lot of answers out there, don't we?
Well,
just a lot of questions.
Think about
a lot of
yeah,
problems. I mean, we do.
Yeah, we need some solutions and realistic solutions. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be careful with the environment. I'm not saying any of those things whatsoever. I am just saying that let's look at the whole picture. In the U.S. and in the regulations that they already have in place, we're so much better than anywhere else in the world. Right. Maybe other than Britain, but
we have dental care. So, but it's the environmentalists are so worried about our country, but you will really want to make an impact. Go to India, go to China, go to Africa. That's where you're going to make a big difference.
And we in the United States, we do have things like you mentioned a natural gas power plant, right? And in Texas, they have a zero emissions or whatever they call it, neutral emissions power plant run off of natural gas. So all of the power and the carbon that's produced by the natural gas in the power plant have these carbon capture. It's a pretty interesting story. And it's been a couple of years probably since I've read it, but they have these carbon capture like filters essentially. And then that carbon that is captured off of the power plant powers the power plant.
Wow.
And so it is a zero or neutral emissions power plant in Texas. We have the technology right here. And so, and China and, all these other countries, they just don't. Well, so anyway,
going back to the article, I'd like to know how these miners feel now after, a couple months of having a new and different president, how they feel now compared to the president that had campaigned for the mining area up north Minnesota, and different things like that, and tried to push for them to protect them and represent them. I'd be curious to see how they feel about everything now.
Well, it's not just them too. I've got a buddy that's a pipe fitter, and
that too
pushed Biden hard. And what was one of the first things that President Biden did? He eliminated 11,000 pipe fitter jobs by stopping the pipeline. One of 500 pipelines running across this country.
Right,
a drop in the bucket.
There's a lot to look at, and people need to look, right? And that's kind of the idea, is just to help open up some eyes, I guess. So let's talk about some U.S. politics. The U.S. completes up to 25% of Afghan withdrawal. The U.S. military estimates that it has completed up to a quarter of its pullout from Afghanistan. U.S. Central Command estimates that we have completed between 16 to 25% of the entire retrograde process. The command, which oversees operations in Afghanistan, said on Tuesday. I'm going to skip down. President Biden announced last Monday that American troops would leave Afghanistan by September 11th after nearly 20 years of military involvement in the war-torn country. As Biden announced, at least 2,500 U.S. troops made up part of NATO's Afghanistan mission, which includes less than 10,000 troops. And it goes on and on about some things about the, one of the reasons we're there, September 11th, 2001, some of those things that are being talked about. killing bin Laden, all that. Lot here.
Right.
Martha May, I want to hear from you first.
So this caught my eye just because President Biden had made the announcement that by September 11th, our troops would be pulled out of this area. Ironically, that date, is embedded in a lot of people's minds, and using that date, I don't think was, it was not a good date to set as a goal. Now the government is saying they'll be done, even they're on track, even farther ahead of that. This is near and dear to my heart. I have family and friends that were over there. I have family and friends that lost a son, the 4,000th one killed over there, Chris Hake. This isn't like Vietnam. This is different. I really feel that when we are all pulled out, they'll go back to their old ways. And unfortunately, some presence is needed to keep them maintained. I'm not happy about having to wait for them to act again. We don't want to. I don't want to ever see another September 11th. I don't want my children or grandchildren to see it. Is it inevitable? That's probably going to happen. I'm not saying it will, but if you put those people back to their old ways, fight against each other, doing the things they were doing, it's kind of, bound to happen, isn't it?
I want to hear from Craig. I have a lot to say about this one. I want to hear.
I would agree that I don't think that we can ever completely pull out of that region. We have more than our foot in the door, and we don't have any friendlies in the area. We don't have friendlies in Pakistan or Iran or any of the other surrounding countries. And I think we have to have at least some presence just to keep the Taliban and Al Qaeda at bay, so that we're there at a moment's notice if something were to happen again. I just can't. 20 years of effort to try and keep these guys under control, and just to walk out and let it all start over again.
Right.
To me, it doesn't make sense. Do I want to see other soldiers killed? Of course not. But to go through all those efforts and lose that many soldiers in vain just to appease the political agenda, I feel like we have to have some type of presence in there.
I think you're both absolutely 100% wrong. I think that we need to pull out altogether. And I think that when something happens, we need to totally decimate the Taliban or whoever is there and not police it. We're not police. And that's what Vietnam was. That's a whole different story, because that all got started off of a lot of false information. We went into Iraq out of a lot of false information, and I'm not a fan of George W. for that. A lot of people died unnecessarily. I think we have technology to go in and be a lot more precise, and a whole mess of things, in my opinion. And I think that far too many soldiers have died for political agendas and not for a military purpose that protects the United States of America. And I know there's a lot to this that's very deep, but we can't let me even back up just a little bit and put it like this. We see what's happening with defund the police all over the place in big cities, just 60 miles from us right here, right now. Okay, where are the neighborhoods that are most affected by this? Why aren't they standing up and saying, no way, don't defund the police? They're not standing up and saying, don't defund the police. This is hurting us. This is going to hurt us. Let's help train better. Let's do all these positive things. And to me, that's what's going on here is that those local people are saying, yeah, we'd love to have you here, but we're not going to help you. And if they're not going to help us, why be there? They don't want us there. It's like the police. Minneapolis don't want the police. All the good cops they're gone. They said, okay, we'll leave then.
Well,
And
I would argue that I think there are people, they're not given, their voice isn't being heard, but there's people that are pushing back, especially with all the children that have been killed up there lately.
The last week has been different, but not before then.
Not as a whole.
Yeah, no, not before then.
So isn't there a saying that a war should only last 10 years and this has gone on for 20? So obviously we weren't strong enough and hard enough right away. Is that what you're kind of saying, Matt?
That's kind of what I'm saying is yeah, go in there and get it over with. Like, don't go in there to police the people and all those things. And if the people aren't going to help, why are we there? We're there to protect. We're there to protect our borders. Okay, right. Over there, I don't know.
And those I know there's people, a lot of we people say that those people. That's just a whole different religion, tribe. I mean, a lot of people don't understand what is over there and how bad it is over there.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I mean. Doesn't mean we leave special forces in there to keep an eye,
intelligence officers.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Does that mean
my point
that we would leave that? But right now they're not leaving that either. That's going to get pulled too.
Yeah, and that I don't agree with. I think we definitely have. If they're not going to be allies, we need to have special forces in us covertly. For sure, absolutely. We need to keep an eye on things.
Right now, they're talking about even how much action is happened since President Biden has announced by September 11th we're going to be out of there. Now those people over there are saying, "Oh, okay, they're leaving. Let's act 12th, up again."
Here we come.
Yeah.
And then that's and then I was just going to say about the military complex. I mean, they saw in World War II what happened to the economy with a war. Let's call that what it is. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, what were we in right before the war, World War II? A massive, massive depression.
Right.
And what got us out of that? The war.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's big.
Are you saying that we need another war to bring our economy back up?
I'm saying that's why they're still there. Is because that they keep pushing the play button on it so that they can keep. I mean, these missile companies and these helicopter companies and all these, what do you think they want us to do? They want us to be there all the time.
Lots of money involved. In contractors, all that. Lots of money.
And contractors. Okay, Joe Biden's brother. When Joe Biden was vice president, his brother got contracts in, was it Afghanistan even?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on Afghanistan, but he got contracts.
It was Afghanistan.
And so, okay. And yes, the Bushes did the same dang thing with Cheney. Who went in there? Halliburton.
Yeah.
Got all kinds of contracts. I mean, I don't know.
There's a lot of facets to it.
There's a lot to it. And I'm not smart enough to really, not even in the neighborhood of smart enough to know. But what I see are soldiers dying, U.S. soldiers. I see that a lot of people, don't respect the military anyway. And so is that because of our politicians and the policies that they're making and things like this? It's not fair to the soldiers. It's just not fair to them, not fair to their families. Defend America. Absolutely. Then defend America.
It raised a few hairs on the back of my neck when President Biden came out and made the announcement for the September 11th date, just because this global war on terrorism obviously started once the attacks, from September 11th, and then to use that as a anniversary date to take away from that remembrance we have of those attacks.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think that's it's bad optics there for sure. But look, what was the terrorism word? I mean, that was the buzzword they kept. Terrorism. That kept everybody in fear and at bay, and we need to have them there. And now look at it 20 years later, 20 freaking years later. What's happened? It's gotten a little better, maybe. Right. Has it? I don't know.
I think we're more conscious.
How do you measure it?
I don't think you can.
And then we're going to lose our, kind of putting a whole nother 20 years later. Now we've gone from having a watchful eye, respecting fire department, police officers, safety, different things like that. And now 20 years later from, like you said, defund, get rid of this, that, and the lack of respect that we have, just like everybody's talking about, what happened to the day after September 11th, September 12th, everybody's flying flags high, and how the spin of, the flag can be seen as a sign of injustice. While, a lot of things happen, unfortunately, on September 11th, but September 12th, our country came together and united as Americans, with a watchful eye. And we need to think of that. We need to remember that.
Right. Neighbors became neighbors again. And now everybody's fighting within our own country.
What are they fighting about?
Whatever the media tells them to.
Yep. Well, COVID is one of them. Is that the new terrorism word? It sure looks that way to me.
Absolutely.
It added a lot of fuel to the fire, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. So I don't know. It's complicated, and who it hurts? It hurts the people like us down at the bottom of the food chain, and we have to fight so hard just to
the grunts
turn the lights on and all those kinds of things, and then it hurts the grunts. It hurts us, the working class. So, and there's more of us, so we need to pay attention. That's
Amen.
the ultimate point.
Amen.
And I don't have the answers for sure, but well, let's move on to some local stuff. And I know that actually about 70% of our viewership is not local, but if this is happening here, it likely is happening or something similar to where you are. So that's why we're doing kind of a more local segment now each week. Rochester Law Enforcement Agency's surprise fellow officer after heart transplant. Rochester, Minnesota, members of the Rochester Police Department, Minnesota State Patrol, and Olmsted County's Sheriff's Office showed up at Mayo Clinic on Wednesday to surprise a fellow officer who recently received a heart transplant. Detective Sergeant Tony Hart. Isn't that ironic?
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I was reading this, and I'm like, what? Did I read that right?
Yes.
Like, this is so cool. Anyway, of East Grand Forks Police Department had been in Rochester since December waiting for a heart transplant. And then on March 1st, he received a brand new heart. And Wednesday, he got the green light to go home. Home would actually be, he is at the House of Shields in Rochester. Actually,
his wife.
His wife is staying. Yeah.
From
Okay,
East
excuse
Grand
me.
Forks.
So very, very cool story. I love it when all these things, they come together like this. We don't hear enough of this, and there's a lot of this that
This was
happened.
beautiful.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. I seen it on, I actually first heard of this on the Facebook page Spot in Rochester, and people were all up in arms like, why is there a whole bunch of vehicles outside the General's building? That's a mental health building. And why are people talking about it? HIPAA. And you shouldn't be talking about working at Mayo Clinic. I wasn't even a Mayo Clinic employee talking about it. People are just intrigued, why all these police vehicles were outside there. And then all of a sudden it came to light, obviously a law enforcement officer was getting treated, and what a great feel-good story. The sheriff and police chief walked up to him. I'm assuming they probably handed him a coin, challenge coin. And wow, it puts the heart back into humanity. It shows them what they're going through on and off the clock. Wow.
Powerful.
And I try to get something a little bit more positive this week, and it
sucks that it's hard to do.
Well, and the media's not giving it to us.
Right. That's what I mean. It sucks.
Yeah. But I like the story because it shows that brotherhood of law enforcement. Here's an officer that I would guess the vast majority of the police and sheriff that are lining the entry have never met the guy, don't know who he is. He's from East Grand Forks. But yet it's that universal brotherhood of law enforcement, and they're there to help his family. And the House of Shields, it's a place for family members of law enforcement that are being treated at the clinic to stay at no charge to them. So if you want to,
great shout out to them. Great shout out.
Yeah.
And that's because we have Mayo Clinic in town that we need that facility.
Right.
Yeah.
And, it's similar to Brown Battalion House for Kids, Gift of Life for transplant patients. And it's for those family members. So yeah, a little recognition for that facility. But it's a feel good story, and it shows that I wish this would have been publicized so that the general public could have been there too. But yet, they wanted to
think about it.
It
They
was
didn't
a
want any
surprise.
pushback.
It was a surprise.
They didn't want
yeah.
any pushback either. You know what I mean? You don't want one
jerk coming.
Sure.
bad apple. I was
Yeah,
going to say bad
yeah.
apple. One bad apple to ruin a moment like that for them. Plus, remember, they had to worry about HIPAA.
What does that have to do with this?
Absolutely.
Because it's medical.
It's
for a
spotted
heart.
in Rochester. They throw funny words out all the time.
I'm
that have
throwing
no
that
relevance.
out there because it's medical related. I'm just throwing that out
But
there.
they didn't. There was no medical. Anyway,
It's just
yeah,
a few people throwing some fancy words out there.
Yeah.
I know what HIPAA is,
Right?
But how is that relative to this? Is
Absolutely
my point.
not.
I mean, jeez.
So people just complaining about everything, kind of like us.
I don't know.
But yeah, a fun
it's
story.
beautiful. His wife by his side and his nurse and everything. So
Yeah.
the bond and everything. And I had a friend who's had heart transplant. It's pretty intense. The recovery, years after recovery, plus, your other organs that it can affect along the way and everything. So again, that would have been an organ donation to make that possible for him. So God bless
Out
him.
of tragedy came
God
a great
bless
gift.
him.
So
Yeah, for sure. More local. Let's talk about Walls announcing his incentives to encourage COVID-19 vaccinations.
right back to
All right, I'm not. I'm
Just
not
give
gonna
them money. Just give everybody
I'm not
money to go
gonna-
get the shot.
I'm not going to even read this, just because I don't know. I hate that we're giving it time. I don't hate that we're giving it time. I think that we need to give it opinion for sure. But to talk about all these weird, goofy incentives that all these states that came out, Ohio, and Walls had even said that, we're not giving as many prizes as some of these other states.
Why do you have
Prizes.
to-
You get a
and
Why do
prize.
you have to
And
give a
it's-
prize to incentivize somebody to do what you claim is a good thing to do?
And here's right, I agree. And here's my philosophy on that. In all these, like let's even say boycotts and cancel culture and all that stuff, right? Everybody, if he wants to say his thing, that's great. But whose money is it?
Our
Right.
money.
Who voted for that?
Our money. That's we
Right.
we
Is
did.
that
Nobody
Walls-
got to vote for it. That's him.
Is that Walls out of his own pocket?
No.
It's not.
We don't even know where he's at, let alone
Well,
his
in
own
my
pocket.
frustration, and I think anybody up until now who's gotten the vaccine is, what about everybody that's already gotten the vaccine? Where's their
They put
kickback?
that in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where's their kickback?
They get it. If there was something in here, let me go to it. But
Oh, if you show
There's
your
just-
card,
if they show
can
your
get all
card,
this?
you can get
Oh, shoot.
And then who's tracking that? What's going to keep people from double dipping? Just don't do it. If people want it,
Again, putting a carrot in front of them and giving them an opportunity to be shysters about stuff, just like our first article.
let me close the loop on cancel culture and boycotting and stuff like that. I didn't close that loop yet. So what my philosophy is that everybody should be able to get their say, right? Walls should be able to go up there and say, hey, if the Minnesota Zoo wants to give out free passes for, getting your COVID shot, great.
except the Minnesota Zoo is owned by the state.
I know, but I'm saying, and what and I'm going to keep going down the line, but and so my point being is sure he can come out and say that, but how does he get to spend my money?
Right.
How does he get to spend your money and your money and your money?
If
and
Valley
your money?
Fair wants to do it, who's privately owned, let them do it.
Or Dunkin' Donuts wants to
But-
give out donuts, that's fine. Let them eat the cost.
Totally, but to use taxpayer money, man, I don't know. I don't think people understand that with where this money comes from.
Just keep printing more.
We can't in the state. That's a federal thing.
Wonder why we have deficits.
Yeah, there's a lot of
We had a
things.
surplus, remember? We had a surplus going into last year.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of things that to me this is just on all kinds of levels wrong. If Walls wants to come out and say, hurrah, hurrah, get the vaccine, if some weird philosophy guy wants to stand on the corner and have a YouTube show and he wants to say his things, that's great. Free that. I'm talking about myself.
Which corner are you going to be on, man?
Exactly. And so it's like, that's terrific. That's why this country has done as well as it has, because of those free speech things, because of the ability to get up and say, here's my idea. What do you think? And then I can get up and say, well, I don't really care much for this part of your idea, but I do like this part of your idea. So can we work together with this? That's what it's about for me. And if Walls wants to come out and say these things, say, hey, Valley Fair, Pizza Hut, can we work together on this? And here's my why, right? Here's why we think you should get a vaccine. I have never seen one thing yet that tells me I should get the vaccine, other than my doctor said, you don't need it because you're decently healthy.
Well, they're trying to incentivize you.
I get that, but why?
Why the push?
Why the push?
It should sell itself.
It should. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Everybody's like, nah, he's anti-vax. No, not
absolutely
at all.
not.
Not at all. Not you, me.
Right, I'm not either.
I mean, and I'm not. But why? I don't know. And using my money.
Hey, going back to businesses having their own idea, isn't that called capitalism and entrepreneurship, what our American country was founded on? So they, can come up with all those different ideas and incentives and everything to do that. But what you're talking about with our governor or our president and our government getting involved and using our taxpayer money is not capitalism.
I love it how so many people are like, go Joe. Remember that on, G.I. Joe?
No.
Real American.
What are you talking
Go
about?
Joe. That was like their thing.
G.I. Joe.
But anyway,
Oh.
a little pop culture there.
Okay.
Martha May. But they're like, so many people that are super pro vaccine and like, yeah, go to the bars and stick people with a needle. People are saying that, like Biden didn't put this together. Who put it together? Who got the vaccines going? And I'm not saying that was a good thing, but Trump did.
Absolutely.
All Biden did was just keep it going in the right direction. And he did keep it going in the right direction.
Right.
Going to give him that. But
he didn't come up with it. His people didn't come up with it.
No, not at all.
Trump pushed it through.
So, and that was one thing I don't really necessarily agree with him on. But should we talk some entertainment?
Yes.
We're entertainment.
I'm not sure if I agree with that.
you two are entertaining.
I'm not sure.
I'm trying.
Some people may not agree.
I'm the rose between the two thorns here.
So, I'm in charge of entertainment, and I brought this story up, because I think that the way they're doing movies and some of these other types of entertainment are, we can get it streamed to our homes and all these other things, but I think this to me was pretty cool. I've not gone to like Broadway, but I've gone to some shows, and some of them I've fallen asleep at, and some of them I really enjoyed. But I think this is a unique story in a sense because they're going to try to get ahead of what?
I was just looking at the pop-up video.
We have an ad. I wasn't even looking at the ad.
LeBron James will not be quarantined despite attending an A-list party.
Is that right? Okay.
How funny is that?
I wasn't looking. Yeah. So anyway, they're talking about how Governor Cuomo said that they can open in September. Was it the 17th or 14th or something like that? Yeah, the 14th. And then this one jumps ahead to September 2nd. This was kind of unique to me because a couple of things. New York is obviously Broadway, and they're under Governor Cuomo's rule, dictatorship. De Blasio, mayor of New York, and some of those things. I am not impressed that they're not saying, let's go.
Let's roll.
Why
The
wait till
science
September?
says.
And I don't mean to get off negative. I'm glad that shows are going to start opening and all these other things, but it's like, at what point do businesses stand up and say, look, this isn't, it doesn't make any sense. We're following your science, and your science tells us we can open. And so that to me was one facet of it. And the other facet is like, hey, good, let's go. But also uniquely, there's a couple shows that won't be opening ever again. And I thought that was pretty wild too. They just couldn't afford to do it. And I don't, Mean Girls was one of them. And what was the other one?
Hangman and a Revival.
No, that's still going, but Mean Girls and one other one.
Frozen.
Oh, Frozen. There it is. Yeah. Frozen. So those are
upset.
those. Yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting that they're like, nah, it's not going to happen. So anyway, what do you think? That's my piece.
They're trying to get back to normal.
The show must go on.
The show must go on.
Yeah. You guys don't like entertainment as well as
Quicker. I think it should go on quicker, but remember, they're all kind of guided after aren't they guided through the Screen Actors Guild union?
Oh, good point.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
probably some sort of
union.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So
they're
even though New York's saying, hey, open up or whatever, now they probably have that parameter or that overhead site kind of guiding them. And remember, doesn't look too good to open up right away, especially if you're from the Screen Actors Guild, union out of California. So where everything's still kind of locked down.
Yeah, actually, that's a good segue into the next entertainment. This story is pretty old. It's from February and stuff, but I wanted to talk about this because it talks about theme parks across the United States that just went ahead in February to decide whether they were going to open or not. And some of them will wait and hold off a little bit. But a lot of places like, Florida, Disney World and some of those things. But Florida or California theme parks have not set to reopen at this point. And there's a lot of them like Universal Studios, Disneyland. And I know a lot of these are still not going to reopen in California. And let me just tell you, there's some of these, jobs and these people and these places they're just dying on the vine.
Absolutely. It's interesting. You look at the states where they're not opening up and what they're, not to make it political, but what party their government is.
Compared to Florida.
Compared to Florida.
Or Texas.
Or Texas.
Who's doing boat parades this weekend and different things like that again, and back to
who's opening
pre-COVID life.
Not.
Right.
Yeah.
And it goes back to follow your science. If your science says it's okay to be outside, and if you've been vaccinated, why are they not letting these parks open up?
Right.
Follow your science.
How do you how do I want to word this? Okay, let's be real specific with this. California, their science says 2 vaccinations, be outside, try to keep your distance a little bit just to be somewhat more safe. And then they won't let things open up. They don't do that. What is that then? Let's start there.
Government overreach.
They're contradicting themselves.
Yes.
But why? What's their
Why are they holding on to that power still? The other thing is that, again, these businesses, what are they so afraid of?
If your clientele wants to come, give them the opportunity. I'll guarantee you their employees want to work.
But will they be fined
if they stop getting their $600 a week?
Will they be fined from our government or from their local government, like Minnesota is right now?
And that's what my curiosity is.
Yeah.
And so,
fined and or jailed, like business owners in Minnesota.
They're not going to survive, right? These businesses can't. This has been over a year that these places in California have been completely shut down.
And I'm not worried about, well, of course I'm worried about the businesses, but it's those employees.
That's my point.
The actors that are at Disney World and Disneyland.
Yeah, Disney World's open.
Right. But I would imagine a lot of them want to get back to work. They want to support their families.
Yeah.
The workers, everything off from that. Suppliers, food, everything.
On another note, though, on things opening up, it sounds like
State Fair. Is that what you're gonna say? We're gonna have a Minnesota State Fair with
I don't
no.
care about the state fair. The only
Yeah, but we're
time-
gonna have a state fair with no
They're
law
going to give
enforcement
hula
present.
hoops out at the gate. For
let me
social
say
distancing.
let me go back to this. California vaccines, it's okay. How do they let people in with vaccines versus people without vaccines?
Are they going to ask for it?
That's
Proof.
not. You can't.
It's
You
discriminating.
literally can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Goes back to that HIPAA word.
It does go back to that HIPAA word.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's the interesting thing. So do they just want to remain like
Lockdown.
closed and don't want to?
Permanently locked down.
I don't know. A lot of things need to change with this stuff, in my opinion, I guess.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. You know, they said we're going to get a spike from Thanksgiving and a spike from this
Oh, geez.
holiday and this holiday. So now our mask mandate's been dropped for a couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see if there's a spike. Because if there's not, this last year's been an absolute joke. Because if you go out and about, if you go out to a restaurant or a bar or a store, there are people everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere.
I
And
was in
nobody's
3 airports yesterday.
Very few
Packed.
people, not nobody, but very few people are wearing masks.
Speaking of bars and restaurants, it isn't today the first day that Minnesota has no restrictions. Today it started today. Governor Walz just lifted that. No restrictions on any bars or restaurants. No timeline, no size, no more restrictions.
Huh. What happened to his timeline of July or whatever?
Oh, that's
Something
gone.
else. Oh, wait, he's given millions away in incentive.
So there's
prizes.
kind of a smoke screen there. Yeah, it just got announced yesterday that there is no
Okay.
more restrictions on bars. and
Well,
restaurants.
you know, I haven't been to the Renaissance Festival in, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, 7 or 8 probably. Now that I say that out loud, maybe it's 8 or 9. But anyway, I digress. I'm gonna go this year. Like, I haven't really go by myself if I need to, but I haven't had anybody that really wanted to go the last several years, and I'm just gonna do it
You could do a
because it's
podcast
open.
up there, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Oh,
do a
man,
remote
that could be
thing.
interesting.
Field trip.
I'm going to do a remote thing for a friend tomorrow. So I'm going to see how that goes. And maybe we might do some remote stuff.
But you
So
guys
it's a
did
real
see that about the
possibility.
state fair, though, that they're going to have the
That's
state
open.
fair, but then they're not going to have any police officers. They've already announced that. Like, they're not going to have any police officers at the Minnesota State
And
Fair.
therefore, I will not be there.
Either will I.
No, I don't like to go up there. I had to work up at it for my former employee. I'm not going to pay to go up there.
Why?
Right, exactly.
Why would you put yourself
So-
in harm's way?
So we do, I don't know. We do have one question. We'll wrap up. Perhaps you covered this already, but why is there no Memorial Day event at Soldiers Field this year at the very place we honor the fallen? Wasn't in our weekly story, but I know that the two of you have some information on that. I do not, so
So
I'm
good,
out.
good question. And I kind of in the know. I'm in the know. So the organizers for it filed for the permit from the city.
Which people
several
go
months
back.
ago.
People have to have a permit. Like when I've been doing events down there,
Mhm.
you have to have a permit. It's the right thing to do. That way you can have authority and you have the right to say you're not welcome, different things like that. So when I've had pray for the president, different things like that, we filed for a permit through the Rochester Park Board Association.
Okay.
Okay.
Good information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the parade, the procession, which has happened for decades, was from Central Park on the north side of downtown to the Soldiers Field Memorial on the south side of downtown. And the typical route down First Avenue, they couldn't do because of road construction, and there weren't really good alternative routes. So they scrapped that idea. And
We could do a route around my barn.
that'd be a long walk for some of those old duffers.
Oh,
Well,
We'll give 'em a
not,
ride.
no, not
Yeah.
just drive them out here. And
Oh,
can,
okay.
Can do a, I mean,
A lap around.
yeah.
yeah.
So then the other part of it was the permit for the program at Soldiers Field, and it's very well attended. Like 1,000 people was not out of question. And the city had asked, how are you going to control the amount of people that are going to be at the event? So the organizers said, you know what? We're just going to scrap it. We're not going to fight this fight. So they're not going to do an organized program. The local honor guards will
Can
do.
you keep your train of thought?
Yes.
Is that part of the problem? We're not going to fight this fight as a whole, big picture thing.
Good question. These guys would normally stand their ground, but I think they probably saw the writing on the wall that they weren't going to get anywhere with the city. knowing who I know who the organizers are.
So
and
let me even put it like this. So I'm very excited. Schools are I'm starting to get booked. I've actually got some contracts now for the next school year to get into school. So that's really good. I know that going in and doing the work that I do is not going to prevent road death 100%, period. It's not going to happen. I'm going to keep fighting. That's the short version.
Yep.
Right. So are they wearing people down and that's my point. Like
the city?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Have people gotten
so
complacent?
they're getting worn down and they're like, I'm not going to fight the fight because it's just not worth the fight. Now you got to look at it in the war versus the battle.
Correct.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like the small little things here and there versus the big battle, the big war.
Right.
Big picture. Yeah.
And these guys have fought the fight. They're all veterans.
I'm not saying right. I'm not saying
um,
that, but is it a tactic to wear people down on certain things?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
So there
Which is
won't be a
sad.
program this year. It's horrible, but maybe that's
I know I got off on that, but I wanted to make that point.
That's a good reminder though, Matt, because just like talking about different things and law enforcement memorial, like have they kind of always had the left hand, bad hand, no, and now people have gotten, if you want to call it complacent, where I'm just not going to do it because I know I'm going to get told no anyways. Why am I going to do this?
And I think parameters are important with anything, and that's why we have a constitution. That's our thermometer. That's what we measure things off of, and all that kind of stuff. That's important, super important. I don't mean like let things loose and just go for it, but it's too bad that the city can't come back and say, okay, here are the parameters.
Right. Here's the guidelines. Here's the Here's the recommendations. Just like COVID a year and a half ago. Here's the recommendations. Not no. Shut down our border. You know what I mean? Shut down everything and lock everybody down.
Why isn't the city coming back and say, here's what you need to do per the science? Not, well, what are you going to do? Because then they're asking the organizers to come up with a plan, and then the city has the opportunity to say, well, no, your plan's not good enough. Why doesn't the city say, here's how you have to do it?
Yes.
Well, of course, that's government overreach. But so I don't know why
but then
they're probably frustrated.
But what are they doing for the concerts? Let's bring that up. Because
that's what I was going to tie it into.
Because then they're having concerts, outdoor concerts.
And that was my argument yesterday. Let me finish with the memorial.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I got way off.
The Veterans Honor Guards are still going to do. They're still going to do the rifle salute. They're still going to play taps down there. They're still going to do.
At what time?
I don't know the time. I would imagine it would be late morning, but I don't know the exact time. Okay. So I'm sure there will still be people down there, which is awesome. And then they're starting to do their honors at all the local cemeteries, and it's either the Center Street Bridge or the 4th Street Bridge. They do like a Navy. They lay a wreath in the water. So those are still happening, but those aren't like big public events. So in my argument that Martha May had said was, well, they just released the schedule for the concerts at Mayo Park. How is the city going to control the number of people down there? Because I recall when Soul Asylum played a few years ago, they had 25,000 people down there.
Yeah.
And it was nuts to butts. I mean, it was packed down there. How is the city going to control that?
Right.
But yet they're asking the local veterans that are organizing an event that's happened for decades. How are they going to control 1,000 people down there?
And what the day is about. I mean, truly what the day
right. Absolutely.
is about. Yeah.
That's what it is about for that. Like, right.
And it's not
because it's about fallen military. It seems to me, and it looks to me, and I've seen this other places, that they don't want it to go on and go and happen.
The optics, like you've said, is why is the city not promoting this to say, we fully encourage you to honor our fallen veterans. It's not a weekend about sales and barbecues and all that. And I love this saying is Memorial Day isn't about the soldiers that are wearing the uniform. It's not about the veterans that came home and took the uniform off. This weekend is about the veterans that never came home.
The ultimate sacrifice.
So in my opinion, the city should be promoting this as hard as they can. That memorial is, like we've talked about, one of the most beautiful privately funded memorials in the country.
Right.
And
If
that
top
memorial
10,
brings
if not
people,
one of the best. Yeah, one of the
that
latest,
memorial
yeah.
brings people to Rochester. Patients from Mayo go to that memorial to relax and to contemplate.
Remember and honor.
Yet, they're getting flack for wanting to do something down there. So it's near and dear to my heart, and it's very frustrating that the city isn't being more welcoming to have that program there. And people want that program there.
Remember, we're supposed to be getting back to normal. I mean, things are opening up. This is supposed to be getting back to normal for us. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that we can't have a community honor and remember time to come together and honor and remember like that, and have it endorsed by our community public officials,
local officials.
Yeah.
Our mayor could have said, approve that permit. Let's get people down there. Let's get people out.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up. Thanks for hanging out. To my right,
Martha Makashati, God bless America, and let's truly honor and remember those that have given the ultimate sacrifice.
And Craig Euclid, and same sentiments. When you're with your family this weekend, take a moment to remember a fallen military.
I'm Matt Logan, and I say be shiny, be strong, be hope, be influential, be necessary, and be you. You can find me on all social media at Matt Logan Speaks. We'll see y'all next week.
Amen.